Hi and welcome to another edition of In the Field. Today I'm talking with Tom Djll, improviser, composer, and sonic instigator. For lack of a better term.
I've used that word myself.
That's right. Thanks for talking with me today.
Thanks for having me.
And we're going to talk a little bit about your musical inspirations and some of your background and what you're going to do at the Tom Djll annual Outsound New Music Summit coming up on July 21st.
10th annual.
Yeah.
Not the 10th annual July 21st.
No.
There have been a lot of those.
That's right. So, first question I ask everybody is, do you have a memory of what it was that inspired your yearning or need or interest in playing music?
Well, when I was a kid, I was always making some kind of sound, some kind of mouth noise, usually, just kind of like or that kind of thing.
Right.
I worked at it. I worked at that last one. That took 3 weeks to get the water drop. But my first instrument was a pair of bongo drums. And then I played snare drum for a couple of years in junior high. I got the introduction to Hogan's Heroes down. That kind of stuff.
Right.
And I had a crappy band teacher, so I quit band. He was a jerk. And I was also playing the piano. I was kind of self-taught on the piano, and I could pick things up. Mm-hmm. So I kind of didn't want to read music because I could listen to stuff and just pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we moved to New Mexico from Indiana, and I heard this record with Jelly Roll Morton on it.
Oh, okay.
Jelly Roll Morton and Fats Waller and Earl Hines and a couple of boogie woogie piano players, and it just completely turned my life around.
Mm-hmm.
From listening to mostly classical music, which I still like. I didn't stop listening to that, but listening to somebody with the rhythmic vigor of those people just really captured my imagination, and I'm still trying to play the piano like those guys.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. In fact, a lot of my time lately I've been spending on one piece that I wrote, which is in the stride piano style.
Oh, okay.
And I'm working very hard on it.
Yeah.
And it's one of the few things that I've actually written that I haven't got tired of playing it over and over and over again, because that style is difficult and it takes a lot of work, because your left hand is covering half the keyboard, and just your left hand. And then if you're trying to do, lines with your right hand, that's the hard part. I'm starting to get the left hand together, but anyway.
Yeah.
So from then on, I got more serious about the piano anyway. There were no teachers in northern New Mexico, though, especially teaching ragtime or early jazz. So I just had to kind of go it on my own. And when I got to college, I took some more serious piano, and learned some Schoenberg and Webern and stuff like that, which I also liked. And somewhere along the line, I started listening to more modern jazz and kind of worked my way up.
Up the ranks to...
Yeah, from Charlie Parker to John Coltrane, and then I heard Albert Ayler, and I thought, wow, I don't understand this, but it's really strong, and I have to check it out some more. And and then eventually I got into electronic music also in college. I studied under Carlton Gamer and Stephen Scott, the guy who does the bowed piano music.
Okay.
And they had an EMS Synthi 100, which was about half the size of this room. And it had this...
Yeah, I've read about this, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Early electronics.
Old analog synthesizers are really big. But there's the same company that made the Synthi 1, which Brian Eno used a lot, and Thomas Lane uses to this day. So, and then from there, anyway, that's enough of that, enough of the history thing.
Well, it sounds like sometime around college is when there was a spark that hit you that said, "Oh, there's more to than just the genres I was interested in earlier. Now there's something else." Was that about right, or was there a moment that hit you?
Well, and I also started playing with other people.
Right.
In college, and doing free improvisation in college. And this was in the late 70s, and then I got on the college committee that invites music acts.
Oh, okay.
So I met Lester Bowie and Jack DeJohnette, and after Lester Bowie, it was like, I gotta play the trumpet.
Yeah, because I noticed you talk a lot about keyboards. The keyboards were primarily a really important part of your musical life for quite some time.
Yeah. Actually, I started playing the trumpet a little bit before that. I heard Miles Davis, and there was like mid-50s Miles Davis. I still love that music. It's just, and I memorized the solo to Bag's Groove.
Right.
I love that stuff. Miles Davis, the thing I love about him is his attack, the way he forms the notes, the way he, there's a little bit of a breath sound in there, and there's something really intimate and just, for me, it's more about the sound than like all these beautiful eighth notes that go in a string that just go bebop a doobie doobie bop.
Right.
It's always been more about the sound. But anyway, I met Lester Bowie and heard that group that he was in with Jack DeJohnette, with John Abercrombie and Eddie Gomez. And that really turned me around. And then I heard about this place called the Creative Music Studio. And I got a grant from the college to go there to the Creative Music Studio, which was in Woodstock. Because Lester Bowie was in this group called the Art Ensemble Chicago, and they were doing a workshop there, a 10-day workshop.
Wow, 10 days.
And it was over the Christmas break. It was a New Year's intensive, they called it. And this was in Woodstock, New York. So I went to that, and I also went to New York and saw some amazing music there. But, once I got to this Woodstock place, and I was studying with my heroes.
Right.
It just, most of the time I was just like completely tongue-tied. I couldn't talk to them. I really couldn't talk to them. I would just say the most idiotic stuff. Oh, they like play music. Oh.
Yeah, right.
And they look at me like, what are you talking about, man?
Whatever, kid.
But, and actually the person who made the biggest impression on me there, because I went to Woodstock again the summer after I graduated college, and I was there for about 6 months. The person who made the biggest impression on me there was Roscoe Mitchell.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Is he still here, by the way?
I think he's still at Mills College.
Still at Mills? Yeah, local. He's local at the moment.
Incredible teacher, incredible saxophone player, incredible composer. A difficult guy to, be warm and fuzzy with. He just, no small talk with Roscoe.
Very straight.
Yeah. And, if you were late to his class, God help you. But he really impressed me. He had just the discipline that I never had in my musical training, because I was self-taught. I was just all over the map. And then Roscoe Mitchell comes in, and he has a table, and he's facing 30 young musicians who just can't wait to, hey man, listen to me, listen to what I can do, listen to this, and he just shuts everybody up. He puts a little timer on the table. And he just says, go. And everybody, starts in and goes, and there's this awful rack, and he just stops it, and he says, no, try again, start again. And, every other day we would orchestrate and play through this piece of his called Nonea. He had it arranged for 4 cellos. So we orchestrated it as we went along. He assigned parts, but then every other day would be free improvisation workshops. And this went on for 5 weeks, and it was just, wow. It was incredible. That was in the summer of 1979.
Right.
And then that fall, I was at Woodstock, and, Braxton was there, Leo Smith was there, George Lewis, Richard Teitelbaum, Oliver Lake, Olu Dara, Garrett List, and of course Carl Berger and Ingrid Sturzo. Dave Holland would check in, you know, Ornette and Don Cherry. Can you?
That's a pretty intense lineup.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
Unbelievable. And the whole art ensemble was there
Right.
during that winter session.
So you were in a very interesting place in time.
It was really intense, and you know, some of the students were intense, and you know, I came back to my friends, and I could hardly get through to them. You know, I was kind of full of myself for obvious reasons, and they were like, "What are you talking about?" You know.
Yeah.
And I was composing a lot and playing a lot and just having a ball.
Wow. Okay. So you've had a very strong influences over the course of time.
Yeah. Besides them, I would say my strongest musical influences were some of the people I met at Mills College, and before that, I did a workshop with Pauline Oliveros.
Okay, yeah, right.
And you know, I didn't become like an acolyte of hers. She kind of tends to form, you know, this worship group around her, and I'm not really into that. But I got a heck of a lot out of it. And I had this really strong. I went into a trance, and she kind of talk about instigators. She's an instigator. She's a trickster.
Yeah.
She can mess you up if you're not paying attention. In the most gentle, you know, humorous, human, warm kind of way. But she has her way of really. But she did this session where she was just playing like some kind of shaker, and she had it at like right at 120 beats or whatever that frequency is that hooks into your alpha waves, your beta waves.
Right.
And I went into a trance, and it was a really strong experience. I didn't expect anything like that to happen. And
surprise.
I didn't want to come out of it.
Yeah. Must have been very pleasant.
It was pleasant. It was weird. It was, you know, all these physical things happen to you when you're in a trance. That, you know, your body does stuff that you can't do if you're conscious. If you're a normal waking conscious. So that was a pretty strong musical experience. And then I went to Mills College a few years after that, and got my master's. You know, it was kind of about getting that, but I was lucky because I got both years were paid for by an assistantship. You work in the electronic music studio. So, you know, through that I got to be good friends with Chris Brown, and he really sponsored me in a lot of ways and helped me out and put me on his records. And
yeah, you've had a long-standing musical relationship with Chris.
Yeah,
and worked with him.
Yeah, I'm on Lava, which is a really difficult record of his.
Yeah.
An hour of just brass farts and percussion run through all kinds of electronics.
Wow.
So it sounds like the kind of thing that you hear when you're tripping on mushrooms. And he's on the first Grosse Abfahrt CD.
Okay.
I love what he does on that. You know, he makes it sound like one of those early Stockhausen, you know, like Austin Siebenthagens, because he's doing the Alois Kantarsky part. You know.
Okay.
Every once in a while.
Right.
He's an incredible piano player. I don't think a lot of people
know
that, because he doesn't showcase it a lot.
No. Yeah.
But
we were able to showcase him for Summit a few years back, actually. So I was really happy to be able to do that. And I realized that, we see him on electronics here and there, but a lot of times he's in his Mills world, because I'm assuming it's a very intense job.
Yeah.
What he does over at Mills. So I only see him like once or twice a year, I think, at most.
Yeah.
He hasn't played out as much.
Yeah, and I had him in that group. You put together one of the performances of a group. I had a trio with him and Gina Robert.
Right.
Trio Horizon, and I kind of forced Chris. I said, "No, I just want you to play piano, no electronics."
Right. There you go. Yeah, because he always wants to play.
And he gave me a run for my money.
Do you still work with electronics much? Because I haven't seen you do that for a while.
In a small way, yeah. I haven't really come up with a rig that I really can settle on. I have a few toy electronics pieces, and I have something that's barely more than a toy, which is what's it called? The Kaoss Pad.
Okay, Okay, yeah.
I have a mini Kaoss Pad.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, I used to have a lot of electronics. I used to have that would fill this table.
Very large rig, very heavy.
Yeah, analog, all analog gear.
Analog.
Well, no, that's not true. Actually, I forget I was running a digital delay off the analog electronics.
Okay.
It was an interface that I could feebly claim to be an instrument inventor.
Right.
Because it was something that nobody else had done
Mm-hmm.
in quite that way, and I also would run some of the sounds from the delay back into the analog electronics, and it was one of those systems that was just. Sometimes it was not under my control. Sometimes you have so many wires going and so many things happening, and
you get very intense.
And then you go play the trumpet for a while, and then you go back to this thing, and you turn it up, and it's doing something that wasn't happening when you turned it down to play the trumpet.
Right.
And I just would have to spend a minute or two, take myself out of the musical flow, and take a minute or two, and unplug everything and start over.
And speaking of that, you use also objects with your acoustic setup too. So using
that I do a lot. Yeah.
Are you inspired by any non-musical elements like art, sculpture, objects, or?
Oh, sure. I mean, I'm a visual artist too. I don't have anything. Well, there's a few things around. I mean, these paintings are what my daughter did. My mom was an art teacher, so I've just been surrounded.
Oh, so that's been with you ever since,
Yeah. I mean, I used to sell drawings at art fairs and stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And my undergraduate degree was art and music and creative writing, because I wanted to be this Renaissance guy.
It's good to have all those skills, though. Most musicians don't know how to write very well.
Yeah.
And when it comes to visual, well, I've seen quite an array of visual representations. So it's good to have those three skills.
Yeah, I don't do a lot of visual other than photography anymore. That's what I concentrate a lot on, and I've learned Photoshop pretty well, so I do a lot of Photoshop kind of effects and things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and all kinds of modern art and traditional art, and I'm a big fan of comic books, underground comics. So I have a lot of that stuff. And movies, I love movies. I can't get enough. Complete horror for the Criterion Collection.
Yeah, I understand.
I don't buy CDs anymore. I just buy DVDs from the Criterion Collection. It's good.
So much to watch and be inspired by.
It is really inspiring.
Those soundtracks are amazing.
Oh yeah. I was just listening to. I love those three Antonioni movies. L'Avventura, La Notte, and what's the third one? L'Eclisse. And I just watched La Notte again, and the opening of it is just this terrifying electronic sound, and all that's happening on screen is you're in an elevator and you're going down. And that's over the credit roll at the opening, and it's just it's such a great opening.
Right.
That guy, he's one of my favorite filmmakers, and Kubrick and Kurosawa and Keaton, all the K's. I like all the K's.
So you're composing for your group Kaoss Pad. Is that a collective composition, or is it totally free improvisation, or is it
mostly we freely improvise.
Yeah.
I mean, I compose for that group every time we do a new iteration of it, because part of the idea of the group is to deal with the dynamics of a group, of people who know how to play with each other. And, it's great when it gets to the point where you anticipate what the other people are going to do, or you know all their language, or you think you do anyway.
Right.
But it also gets boring, and you can get into a rut. So what I like to do is find another improvising group, or it's often been a duo. We've done 3 records with duos of these European guys, and they have their own identity, right? They have their own dynamic with their duo, the way they play, all the instrumentation and the language they have. So it's like having two bands at once playing, and not.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what interests me. And so each one of those is kind of a composition, is just putting the group together.
Right.
And but this one,
yeah,
I do have a few words that it's just going to be like a verbal score.
Okay.
Because Tim Perkis and I, we have these conversations. We have these long kind of philosophical conversations. And he's a great raconteur and a great talker and a really smart guy. We have these conversations. It's kind of my dinner with Andre conversations.
Yeah.
We save the world every time, right? So we started talking about just a couple of weeks ago or a week ago information, and how there's so much of it, and the control of information has kind of become more valuable than the information itself. So these are very interesting ideas to me when you apply them to a group situation of music.
Yeah.
Because everybody is supplying information, right? In a certain kind of, and then there's a certain kind of a flow established of the information. And, but our culture has reached this point where there's so much information that, and it's so readily available, like on the internet, right? That's the place. And this kind of gets back to what we were talking about before you roll the camera of how do you sell CDs in this? When content is so devalued, it's devalued because it's so readily available.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a contradiction.
Yeah.
I mean, I've read some blogs where people are talking about, like, record collectors. It's like all the fun of record collecting is gone now because you can find almost anything. There are very few exceptions. All the stuff that I used to lust after and kind of, I mean, this sounds stupid and geeky, but you kind of like enjoy the lack of it more and the pursuit of it.
Right,
it's like,
right. The journey
I've been
itself.
looking for Sonny Chiroc's Black Woman, or an original copy for 17 years, and then you find it.
Right, just out of the blue.
So
it's a record swap.
That's done.
Yeah.
So it's kind of more fun,
Yeah,
the pursuit of it. And so that kind of dynamic in the age of the internet is gone.
Yeah, because now you can just look it up and find somebody on the planet that has it.
Yeah.
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 Well,
and you can download it. It's not the same as having the album.
No.
I actually do have the album.
But you can hear it, I guess. Yeah, I understand that. So your approach to your show coming up next week.
Well, I'm just gonna have the fellows. I'm gonna hand out some slips of paper and have them read it. I'm not gonna show it to anybody until just before we go on.
Okay.
And here's some things to think about while you're playing. That's what I'm thinking about now. The other thing is I have some new instruments and instrument creations that I haven't done before, and some of them I have done but not in 10 or 15 years. Like this.
Yeah.
Take, for instance, this really long tube. Let's see, which is the clean end? That's the dirty end. So
yeah.
it makes sound that way, but that's
right.
not usually how I... And you can use it as a poor man's didgeridoo, like a really bad... Like a really shitty didgeridoo.
Right.
A shitteridoo.
There we go.
But the way I like to... Besides whirling these things, it's like a giant whirly, right?
Sure,
Two
right.
of them. The other one's about 2 feet longer than this. So the fundamental note for this is really, really low.
I bet.
So when you whirl it, you can get up to really high partials.
Sure.
Because they're kind of... And you can still hear them.
Mm-hmm.
So all those are really close together. All those partials are really close together when you're whirling it. But you can also... that's all you have to do.
Yeah.
That's what the whirling does. It creates air.
Airflow.
It forces air through this.
Right.
Because of the Venturi effect.
Oh, cool.
So you can just blow through it. I don't think this...
Oh, sure. You can hear the overtones, too.
So... I'm going to be doing that.
Nice.
But I have another way to create that airflow. It's kind of a top secret.
Okay, well that's
I'm not going to
good.
reveal that.
Yeah, because that's the thing about Summit is that it allows for surprises in a festival format.
Yeah.
So we don't want to tell everybody what you're going to do, and a lot of other folks they're going to be holding back things too. It's be a very interesting experience.
Yeah.
At the moment, so.
Yeah. For this, the other thing that distinguishes this Gross Out part is we actually, I mean, Kyle is kind of an honorary member by now. I mean,
yeah.
I kind of, you know, I tried to have him in a lot of these other ones, and he's so busy. You know, he's just a guy in demand.
Yeah.
Because he's so good.
Well, you know,
and he can do the symphonic thing.
Right, because you know Kyle Bruckman's a double reed player, and you know it's rare, and he's classically amazing as well as an incredible improviser. So
that's how he makes his living.
Right, which is a wonderful thing because you don't hear that too often. You know,
no.
People be able to play double reed instruments and make a living at it.
Yes. So
it's a very nice thing to do. So it's good to have him with you guys this time.
Yeah, he's amazing. Yeah. He was also on our last one with John Butcher.
Okay.
So we had like 3 of the most amazing reed players in the world with him and Butcher and Matt Ingalls.
Yeah.
Who's a great clarinet player.
And,
among other things.
Well, yeah, I know. Electronics as well. So a lot of you guys have electronics background as well.
Kyle
as
too.
Acoustic instrument background. Yeah, that's true.
I mean, basically everybody in Gross Out does electronics, either acoustically or with the wireless.
Sounds like electronics. Yeah. Exactly. So I got to ask you, what's with the name? Where did that come from? It's the most interesting name.
I'll show you.
All right.
I'll shout at you while I'm getting this.
Okay.
When I was a kid, I was really into these things.
Oh, dirigibles.
Zeppelins.
The Zeppelin, okay.
So, actually, in this book is where I copied.
Move it a little bit here to make sure we get a good shot of the Zeppelin.
The Zeppelin, that's the Graf Zeppelin.
There we go.
The swastika has been painted out.
Okay,
That's
excellent.
Always helps. Get the swastikas out of the picture.
That's right. We're just talking about the actual vehicle.
Yeah, there's something in here. There's like a departure. So, anyway,
So is that like a term that was used for the leaving of a Zeppelin from the ground, or?
Well, Große Abfahrt literally means great departure.
Right. Okay.
So in more than one way, it's a great departure when you ride a Zeppelin, and I just love the idea of lighter than air flight.
Sure. Right.
I haven't ridden in a blimp, but I rode in a balloon once.
Oh yeah.
And that was a beautiful experience. And well, I'm never going to find the picture I'm looking for.
Of course not. That's just the way.
Leave it out here.
Okay, so inspired by a non-musical object inspired by a Zeppelin.
And it also has to do with bringing, you know, like our first 3 CDs, we brought people from very far away. So it was a great departure for them to come here, and hopefully the idea is for this group of the 5 of us to make a great departure from what we usually do, while at the same time doing what we always do.
Right. That's great. I love it. That's wonderful.
And also, you know, the sort of idea of celebrating a sort of a technology that's kind of heroic and doomed.
Yeah, right.
You know, that's the German romantic in me,
right.
Heroic and doomed.
Wow. Excellent. Well, let's hope that your set is heroic and that everyone is not doomed.
Not doomed, yes.
But it'll be good to hear you play, and I hope folks who are watching this prior to July 21st, 2011 will come on out to the Outsound New Music Summit. Thank you, Tom, for speaking with me today. And if you want more information, just go to outsound.org.